Keep your radio dial right here. You're locked into the hottest news station on the planet. Hot 702.5 in FM sound. Blazing today's hip-hop, R&B, and pop music. Keeping your radio on fire. Bringing you the hottest, realest, riskiest talk shows live 24/7. Live on hot7025fm.com.
What's going on, everybody? It's your main man, 360, the poet from the Morning Wood, and I'm here to talk to you about the Sci-Fi Center. It's your Vegas home for science fiction, horror, and fantasy. From comic books, toys, and posters to movie screenings and live events, they've got you covered. Located at 900 Cameron Avenue, Suite B209, give them a call, 702-900-4335, or reach them at thescificenter.com.
Hi.
Hey. What's up?
All your favorite artists.
Check it out. Say my name.
DJ Khaled.
This is Mila J.
Bruno Mars.
On hot7025fm.com.
It's your main man, 360, the poet from the Morning Wood. And are you looking for the perfect drink? Well, you found it. Mimosa Royale is the perfect combination of California sparkling white wine and natural juice that is both tasty and refreshing. No artificial colors or flavors, no sugar added, and it's gluten-free. As the world's first ready-to-drink mimosa, Mimosa Royale is perfect for any occasion, day or night. You no longer have to drink 12 of those seltzers just to get that perfect buzz. At 8% alcohol, Mimosa Royale is the perfect drink to party with. Offered in a variety of flavors and sizes, you are bound to find a Mimosa Royale that you'll love. We have berry, mango, apple, and orange, with more flavors to come. Mimosa Royale is the most award-winning flavored wine that serves in bottles or cans. You can find them online at drinkmimosa.com or find them at your local liquor store. Ask for it by name. Mimosa Royale.
What up? What's up? What's happening? What we doing? Where y'all at? And what are y'all doing? And what are y'all doing? Where y'all at? Y'all know what it is. It's time to holla at the homie. And I'm the homie 360, the poet, coming to you live and direct from a place nobody else knows about, but you already know what I'm talking about. Right here in the Viva Las Vegas, out here in the desert. What's up, Al Rich, Jay Sylvester? Good to see the homies online right now. We got all the questions. Maybe some of y'all questions that we're going to get answers today. Because today what we're doing is, I just went ahead and spun the wheel and I said, you know what? We're not going to do a letter today. We're going to get into a lot of the questions that people have presented to me without being in the form of a letter. And that way we can kind of run through like a round robin of a few different ones. And we'll try to get through as many as we possibly can as we go through this whole situation and scenario. You understand what I'm saying? So it's a lot of viewers and listeners that have sent me, questions, but just, it was like, well, I don't really have a letter to have anything. What's going on, Azarel? Good to see you. Yeah, my man. But they was like, I got a question to ask, and they've been asking me. One of my homeboys was like, man, when you going to answer my question on the show, man? So I went ahead and made sure I got his question as one of the ones that I want to make sure they answered. I try to keep them as anonymous as possible. But you at the number one spot for advice, whether it's online or in person, right here on hot7025fm.com, on Instagram Live, on TikTok Live, Facebook Live, all the live, because we all the way live. You know what I'm talking about? So that's what we're doing right here. What's up? What's going on, Asha Janine? But I always like to let people know, I give my disclaimer all the time, right? I have not been trained in any way, shape, form, or fashion in counseling, psychology, psychiatry, or anything along the sorts. But what I have done is I've lived a very colorful life. And in this colorful life, what I've done is I've scooped up and sponged up a lot of game. And with that, I'm able to squeeze it back out to y'all over the airwaves, live and direct, right here on Holla at the Homie. So let me clear my throat. Let me clear my throat. Let me do that real quick so we can make sure that we can jump right into these questions today. So again, anytime you have a question that you want to ask me, go ahead and send it to hollaatthehomie@gmail.com. That's HOLLAATTHAHOMIE@gmail.com. If you see me, you're going to see us everywhere around me because that's all I am. I'm hollering at the homie. I'm the homie 365. I'm Will. I'm 360. I'm the homie 360. I'm all the above. But you can holler at me anytime, anywhere. You dig? But, sometimes, if I'm out in public and I'm with my family or something like that, I may want a little break, a little breather. But I'll let you shoot that question at me. What's going on, your Hockey 702? But yeah, man. So I'm glad to see everybody popping in and saying what's up to me. And if you out there, hit that share button, hit that like button, hit the subscribe buttons. You know how this is the world we're living in right now, right? That's what we're living in right now. We're living in, share, love, make sure everybody's able to kind of like get a better understanding of of what we doing out here, just making sure we all reaching out to each other, right? So at Holla at the Homie, what we do is we give advice. I don't never tell people what to do. I just tell you options of what can be done. So we're gonna jump into the first question. Like I said, we got a whole gamut of questions that we're going to get answered today. And as always, if you got your question, go ahead and drop it across the screen. Drop that comment. If you got a question, we'll make sure that myself and the online homies that pop on here with us will answer the questions for you as well, because I'll repeat it and give them a chance to kind of go over it as well with you. Okay, so first question that popped up out of the roulette of questions that we offer. What you say? You say, am I back at the Classic Jewel? Yeah, I will be back. Classic Jewel first Friday in November. So that is Friday, November the 7th. I will be back for Bars at the Bar Friday, November 7th, to come on out there and you come on out and get yourself on the microphone and all the others. If you got some lyrics, it's a lyrical competition. So if y'all ain't heard about it, it's Bars at the Bar, hosted and created by yours truly. Classic Jewel, 331 South Bonneville, down here in downtown Las Vegas. So that's every first and third Friday night. Right down there at the Classic Jewel. What's going on, Angie Mac 89? What's going on with you? What's up, Anthony Navy Blue Hill? What's up, Ant? Oh man, we need to put together a team, man. We can coach together, man. Coaching with you and coaching with Coach Thurston, man, was like some of my best times ever that I had on the sideline, man. So big up to you, Anthony Navy Blue Hill. What's up with you, home boy? One of the Monarch finest as well. Morningside, you know what I'm saying? Rip to the Morningside, man. They took us down and painted us green. That's some BS, but anyway, so like I said, I went through a bunch of questions that people asked me. They asked me to be able to answer these questions for them. They didn't have a whole letter that they wanted to write. They just wanted to get straight down to it and ask some questions. So one of my listeners asked and said, why do people stay in situationships that they know clearly aren't going anywhere? So that's a big question. So like anybody who doesn't know what a situationship is, right? That's a relationship that's based off certain situations. So if you've never been in a situationship, what's going on, Mac, to you? If you've never been in a situationship, or if you didn't know that you were in a situationship, let me break it down to you and let you know if you were in one. So it's a relationship that has stipulations to it, right? And the stipulations means that you don't always have access to one another. What's up, D Wills, brother-in-law in the building? Always good to have you on here, man. But like a situationship is when you're in a relationship with somebody, or some sort of covenant with somebody, or you in a position with somebody, you messing around, y'all smashing, y'all dating, whatever the thing may be, right? But y'all don't always have access to one another. So that means that they've got another situation that they may be dealing with that's other than what you are. So that means that's what classifies you as being in a situationship, right? So moving on. So the question asked was, why do people stay in situationships that they know are not going anywhere? I'm going to tell you flat out, man, because comfort feels better and safer than having clarity. You say, what? 360? Yeah. Being able to feel comfortable. Being able to have like that, well, at least I know that if you're able to have one of those moments, if you're able to call one of those moments out, right? At least I know that they will blank. Then you fill in those associated blanks with one another, right? Comfort feels safer than clarity, because if you know where you are and what situation you are in with somebody, if you just say, for instance, y'all go together, right? Y'all go together, y'all couple, y'all boyfriend, girlfriend, y'all husband, wife, y'all, fiance. What's up, Sin La Unica? And make sure y'all there sharing. Make sure you tell your friends and tell a friend, because we talking some real stuff in here today, right? So like the thing about it is, if you know the situation that you're in, if you know your position in your relationship, if you know that this is your significant other, then that isn't as a comfortable position as being able to say, like, I'm cool over here, but I can kind of still do what I want to do. And it's no issues, no problems, no situations, right? A situationship gives you just enough of what it is that you want, not what you need. You know, a situationship gives you just enough of what it is that you want, whether that's some good D, whether that's some good head, whatever it is that's got you glued to this situation. It gives you just enough. You know what I mean? Just enough to make you want to keep them from leaving, or it keeps you from leaving. So if you're giving out just the right amount of pieces and you didn't know that you were in a situationship, you are. If you getting just what you kind of just want from this person and no extras, and you didn't know you were in a situationship, you are. So, and if you've got an understanding of where your relationship stands, right? If you know exactly what it is that you are to one another, then that really wasn't, even if you know that they have something going on the other side, you can still be in a situationship. But the thing is, you have to recognize it. What's going on, Nicole, Michelle? You have to recognize that you are in a situationship before you can make any moves in accordance with it. And once you know it, knowing is half the battle, like G.I. Joe said, right? So people stay in these situationships that they know have no future beyond where they are, because that comfort feels a whole lot safer than knowing exactly what's expected of them. You know what I mean? And sometimes folks would rather deal with the uncertainty than to face the loneliness. Because if you know that you're not going to be with this person because they can't be with you wholly, but you were enjoying what y'all had going on at one point, then that leaves you in a situation of loneliness, possibly. We're going to touch on that question a little bit later too. But what about this situationship has you still stuck to it like flypaper? Or what makes the other person stay stuck to it like, you know, like flypaper, right? It's because they'd rather deal with the uncertainty of what this situation is than to go in knowing exactly what's expected of them and end up lonely. You know, but here's the truth though. Just because you've almost been chosen, you know what I mean? Like, what's up, Mustang Detroit? Other brother-in-law here on TikTok. What's up, Al over here, Dame over there? That's what I'm talking about. I can't wait to see y'all brothers in about 3 weeks. Thanksgiving going up, down in the A. You know what I'm saying? So whether you've been, now this, you know, back to in a situationship, if you've partially been chosen or somewhat been chosen, that means you still weren't good enough to completely make a choice of. What's up, Lucy Lowe? Going on with you, babe? So like, if you've almost been chosen, it still means you weren't really picked. So that means like if you on the kickball team, right? If you standing in line and then you waiting to get picked for kickball, if somebody almost picked you, you still ain't on the team. So situationships mean you can't even kick for yourself. You have no control over it. So situationships mean you have to ride the wave in any which way they're going. But can you surf those waves? Can you make it happen? Appreciate that gift, bro. You know what I'm saying? Can you live this situation in a way to where both sides feel as if they're being seen and heard? So that's what makes people stay in situationships which they know have no future, in my opinion. IMO, y'all welcome to chime in and tap in on why y'all believe, you know, some situationships where people know that they're not going any further, why they still stay. Because the first thing is you got to admit to yourself that you've been in one. You know, don't try to play it all smooth and act like, oh, I ain't never been no situationship. I just broke down a couple of different ways. If you can't go to that person's house, if you're not invited to their crib, but y'all done smashed, if you can't call them by their real government name, like if you don't know it, basically you call them, you know, oh yeah, that's my dude. That's Junior. You know what I mean? Like if you only know him by Junior, what is he the junior of? Is it just JR? Like, what is it? What's up, Thrifting with Keisha? Good to see you on here, my friend. What's going on, Peter sister? Make sure y'all all tapping them love button, like buttons, save buttons, wave buttons, all that kind of stuff. I appreciate that engagement. So like if you don't know you in a situationship, these are a couple of signs to let you know. If you don't know them by their first and last name, if you don't know their birthday and you done already been penetrated by this person, or you done already let this person bob on your knob. You in a situationship. Point blank. There is no relationship if there's no relating to one another. So to answer the question, why do people stay in situationships that they know clearly aren't going anywhere? It's because most of the time they haven't admitted to themselves that it's a situationship. And once you admit it to yourself that it's a situationship, then you can kind of decipher and try to be at the controls of this RC remote control. Then you can try to, be at the helm if you can. Because if you can't call them by their whole name, if you don't know their birthday, if you can't go to their house and you know they got one, then hello, you're in a situationship. I just want you to know that. So for those that did not know that you were in a situationship, or those that did not understand what that really, really meant, these are a couple of signs that let you know that you're in one. Okay. So I thank you to my person. You know what I mean? You got to act. You can act like you in one all you want to. Act like you're in a relationship all you want to. A lot of things are things, anything that has to make you stay lets you know. What's up, Bree Rose? Anything that has to make you stay should give you an inclination that this really ain't for me. I'm just appeasing myself in some way. Okay, so that's all you're really doing. You filling in a blank for yourself in some way, shape, form, or fashion, right? So, and that's a situationship. If you've never been in one before, then you know that you're in one. All right. So thank my writer in for that particular question. My next question that somebody sent me, and I kind of picked this one out of the grouping, is: should you forgive a partner who cheats but admits it right away? Oh, see that one right there. That, first of all, whoever asked that, I'm hoping you are the one who are trying to contemplate whether you should forgive, and not the one trying to figure out whether you're going to be forgiven. Because I got a flash goal. That's what's happening. What's going on, Knowledge 318? What's up, Ray Butler? 2-4 in the building. So like this is a real question. Should you forgive a partner who cheats but admits it right away? All right. So forgiveness and reconciliation are two different things. Let's start there. So to forgive somebody, you forgive them for your own peace. Meaning you forgive them to say, like, okay, what's going on, Twin J2? You forgive them to say, okay, I'm allowing you not to hold me hostage due to what it is that you did to me. So that's for your own peace, right? But the trust factor, that may take a bit. Yeah, you may feel a little less hurt because they told you right away. But if anybody admits to you that they cheated on you, regardless if they did it 5 minutes ago or they did it 5 months ago, it's going to hurt you, because the lack of faithfulness, the lack of trust on their part, the lack of, integrity on their part has destroyed the lack of trust on your part. So now trust has to be earned back, and it's not all at one time. That's what people don't be understanding. Like, when you're trying to earn somebody's trust back, if you make a couple of moves that are trustworthy in that same arena, that doesn't mean that you've earned it all back. What you've done so far is just sort of wipe away a little bit of the smear that's residually there for you. So when you put a stain on a relationship by, being, unfaithful, regardless of whether or not your honesty kicks in afterwards, your dishonesty is what prompted your need for your stern honesty now. So when you start to give and make these moves that are honest now, that isn't clearing the stain away. You still trying to brush it off. You still got Cheetos, on your fingers. You're a cheater. Cheetos, get it? You still got Cheetos you got to wipe off. So you say exactly. Forgiveness is one thing. Trust is a whole different ballgame. Exactly, Ray Butler. You know what I mean? Trust is that's a big, for one, it had to be built in the first place. What's going on? K to the I to the A to the N to the A. You know what I mean? So trust had to be built in the first place. And for you to demolish that building, imagine that, like right here in Vegas, they implode these casinos, right? But it take a minute for them to build them back up to be something or whatever else they're going to be. Yeah, you watch it crumble before your eyes. That's the trust. That big old skyscraper is the trust. And they've built that for you over the whatever amount of time y'all been together to where y'all been trusting each other, right? But now, what's going on, Mrs. Yeah, to the underscore 2? Like now that you've destroyed this level of trust, you can't expect it, but they say Rome wasn't built in a day type thing, right? You can't expect this to automatically, because you made a couple of moves, you done cleared a little bit of the debris, or you moved in the direction to where you got a new blueprint and you about to start the construction. Just because you're starting your construction of this trust doesn't mean it's already built right away. So I want people to understand that if that's anything you take with you today, and that's another thing Ray Butler said, and forgiveness don't mean we forgot. Oh man, come on now. People don't forget nothing. People, especially when your pain, you don't forget your pain. You don't forget your ass whoopings. You don't forget when you got slapped around. You do not forget them. They're always embedded in you because it left a mark on you. See, that's the thing about scars. Scars may not hurt anymore, but they remind you of what happened. So this is a scar on the relationship. This cheating, this infidelity is a scar on the relationship, right? So if you destroyed this trust in a matter of seconds, don't expect it to be rebuilt the same way it was in a matter of seconds. That's not how it goes. It took a while for you to get to that point in the first place, for them to trust you in the first place, and for you to destroy it, whether or not you decided to admit to it or not. You can admit to it. That's okay. Bravo. I give you props. Big up to you, my boy. Big up to you. You admit that there. Okay, you admit that there, but don't expect the trust to be real built right back right away. Yeah, I forgive it a little bit of time, So that's the thing. And allow us to heal and at our pace. And that's another thing. That's what I was about to talk about. Excellent point, Ray Butler. You got to give them the opportunity. Just because you speed drove and destroyed that building really fast doesn't mean that that's how their healing process is going to go. You have to allow hurt people to heal at their own pace. You can't tell them when not to be hurt no more. You can't tell them that. What that look like? Trust and healing is a brick by brick process. Trust and healing is a process in which you have to brick the brick, lay the mortar, put another brick, let it dry. That means it's time. Take some time. It takes some time, and not only time, but continuous effort. They not the ones that have to rebuild these bricks of trust. That's your job as the untrusted. So that's a lot of people fall off in relationships when they think that they're supposed to be forgiven like that. Yeah, I mean, sure, nobody's perfect. I'm not asking anybody to be perfect. I'm not. I don't expect anybody else around me to. That's why my back is tattooed that says trust no one but God. And that means myself. I can't even trust myself 100%. What's up, Sally.R1002? You know what I mean? So it's like, nobody is going to rebuild that trust for you. You have to rebuild it yourself. What my boy from he said, I built this brick by brick. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna let you tear it down because you don't like the way another talk. You know what I mean? So brick by brick, it's got to be built right back. Franklin, that's what I was trying to figure out his name. Franklin said that. You know what I mean? So that's the same thing with trust. You have to allow it the time to not only be rebuilt, but in that building process, you got to let, the things that are holding these gaps together, opportunity to dry. You got to let the putty dry. You got to let the clay dry, the glue dry, whatever it is that you're putting this puzzle piece by piece back together. You must allow the cracks to dry, because if not, that's the first place that's going to separate again. If you rush a brick job, be prepared for that. That ain't what the little piggy did. If the little piggy would have rushed his job with the bricks, the big bad wolf could have blew the stuff down right away. He blew the straw down. He blew the sticks down because they did it in a hurry. They want to build this security in a hurry. Don't be the first two little piggies in regards to your trust. You got to be that third little piggy. Build it slow. brick by brick. Let it dry. Let it dry. Let it dry. And that's you putting forth the effort to build that trust back with the person that you violated. You violated this person. That's what I want you to see. People, trust is a mofo, bro. Like, if you break my trust, it's hard to build that back, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. So that's why I had to learn, like, when I've crumbled trust with people. Again, I'm not perfect. I've broken trust before, you know, in many different ways. But I've had to learn, like, I can't expect it to just, again, that's how I'm able to tell you this right now, because I was one of those ones who expected it to be hurried up, quick, dry. Would you say, Twin J2? It's always the person that F's up that thinks you should forgive them quickly. Oh, yeah, always. I was them. I have been that person before. That's how I'm telling you that the ish don't work that way. I've been the person who wanted this quick, dry forgiveness. That's the only way I'm able to tell you and give you and advise you in that way. What'd you say, Ray Butler? Heal yourself so you can be yourself again. Exactly. That's a way. Oh, I like that. Heal yourself so you can be yourself again. That's what my Monarchs on here going in hard today. I'm rocking with that. What's up? What's up? Ain't life sweet? You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm talking about in regards to building trust again. You have to allow it its time to take its true form, its new true form, because it's new trust. The old trust that you had, that you may have been able to build so easily, so smoothly, the old trust that you had where you've been able to kind of like float through and just, you can, you know, bank on that trust, know that you got that trust in the bank, show you what you drank, like type thing, like that type of particular trust is no longer there. This is all brand new. This is trust in its infancy now. You know how fragile a toddler is, an infant is? That's like your trust. The trust that they have for you is fragile. It has to be babied. It has to be re-nurtured. So you better button up, Buttercup, and get ready to nurture that trust. Because if you try to that's like trying to make a kid grow up too fast. You're going to ruin that baby. What'd you say, Twin J2? Sometimes healing yourselves means forgiving and leaving that person alone. That's another thing. Sometimes you got to kick rocks wearing flip-flops and socks. You got to be out like a trout in the summer drought. You got to be gone in the wind, my friend, because allowing yourself that space. This is now I'm talking to the people who are the violated. I'm not talking about to the violators right now. I'm talking about to the violated. If you've been violated, and this is a question from you, and you're asking this, should you forgive this person right away? You may have to step away for a minute just to give you an opportunity to see the situation at 360. Hey, that's my name. At 360 degrees. Because when you're in it, you can only see 180 at a time. You can only see what's in front of you. And if you turn around and look behind you, now what was in front of you is behind you. So you can only see 180 at a time when you're in it. Sometimes you must remove yourself from the situation. Step outside of that situation. And then now you can evaluate that situation and decide on whether or not you even want to build that trust back. Whether or not you even want to be back in that arena again. That's what people got to understand. Like, you don't, just because you forgive somebody don't mean you got to be with them again. I forgive you for, because you're not forgiving them to put them back in the same place they were in. That place no longer exists. It no longer exists. That building is no longer there. It is imploded from the inside. You crushed their heart and they imploded from the inside like a casino on the Vegas Strip. Now you got to wait for the new building to be built again. Now you got to wait for whatever's coming to that place, that particular address, which is their heart. Where is it? Is that you? Do you live there anymore? You've abandoned me. You know what I'm saying? Love don't live here anymore. So the love for you ain't even at that address. They didn't file for a new addy on your ass. And you got to understand, and when you're the violator, Don't be out here on no stalker-ish and try to be like, no, you're going to be with me because you effed up. Like Twin J2 said, it's always the people who effed up that want to be forgiven the fastest. You know what I mean? So it's like, if they not rocking with you, give them that space, dog. Give them that space, my girl. Whoever it is on that side of the coin, because I'm not going, because everybody mess up. I tell you, nobody's perfect. I'm only human. You know, we only human. So think about that. Other people mess up the same way you do. You mess up the same way other people do, just in other arenas. But it's no making you any different. You still got a heart. You still got blood pumping through your veins. You put your pants on one leg at a time, unless you're a Cirque du Soleil. Might be able to jump and do a flip into them things or something. But nevertheless, I digress. When it comes to trust and rebuilding it and healing, the number one factor is time. You know, maybe there's a road forward for y'all. Maybe that's a big word. 5 letters, but a big word. You know, maybe there's a road forward for y'all. But as long as y'all both keep pushing on y'allselves, working on y'allselves, if those roads are parallel and they never cross paths again, then God bless you. You know, but if they happen to veer into each other's, you know, direction once again, when life and healing process has occurred and, you know, the growth has occurred or has happened that was needed, because sometimes it's about the growth. You know, don't confuse the guilt that they have with growth, because if they just saying I'm sorry as damage control, you know, not because they really, you know, say I'm sorry, I messed up, I'm sorry, I'm sincerely sorry. You know what I'm saying? Sorry. You know, sometimes sorry ain't the one that did it to me. I want to see growth, not guilt. That's a big difference. I want to see, you know, you got to see growth, not guilt. What's up, Kenneth Watson 39 over on TikTok? I want to see growth, not guilt. You know, and that's usually what happens when people have an opportunity to, you know, again, forgiving and forgetting, you know, those don't, you know, forgive, but don't forget, whatever. It's not about that. It's about, because like I said, the first two things I said, forgiveness and reconciliation, are two different things, because you can forgive somebody because you're forgiving them for the violation that they did. So you forgive them, but to reconcile with them, sometimes it takes the growth and not the guilt that they, you know, present. So if it's just that I'm sorry, just to kind of like make things nice and easy again, you know, did they really mean it? So to answer that question, should you forgive a partner who cheats if they admit it right away? You know, I say, think about whether it's growth or guilt that they presented that with when they said, you know, I'm sorry. Was it an apology or was it an I'm sorry? Those are two different things as well. You know what I'm saying? Somebody say, I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? Somebody said, you know, I apologize for, you know, my apologies. I offer them to you for whatever it is I did to you. It comes off differently. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well, hey, sorry. I'm F you. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm not really, you know. I'm not really like that. Ooh, that was some good crushed ice. That tasted delicious. So the two questions we've answered today so far, you know, why do people stay in situationships that they know aren't going anywhere? We touched on that. Then we talked about, like, should you forgive somebody who cheats if they admit it right away? Right? What's going on, Lady Lav? Lady Lay something. So like that is a big question. These are questions that people have to ask. And again, these are all pulled from questions that the viewers, the listeners have presented to me, you know, whether it be on TikTok, whether it be on Instagram, whether it be on Facebook or High 7025. Like, these are questions that people have sent to me, whether by text, but they said they'll have a whole letter to put with them. So that's what we're going through today. We answering questions from the listeners, from the viewers. If you got a question you want to answer, go ahead. What's up, Dakari Kofi? If you got a question, something you want to answer, we'll answer it live right here as well. Because that's what we're doing. We're doing it live and direct. You know, we getting it from myself. We getting it from our online colleagues, aka the homies out there. You know, so we doing it that way today. Today is an homage to all the listeners and and the viewers who have sent out something to me and asked questions just without being in the form of a letter, So those are the first two questions we got to. Now, the next one, this was a question that somebody close to me asked, and I didn't get a chance to get to it before they actually started dating again. So the question was, how do you know when you're actually ready to start dating again after a breakup? See, my thing on that is the first thing I'd be like, well, time is yours to tell. The first thing I told him is time is yours to tell. I told him that straight up. I told him, I was like, time is yours to tell. So don't let anybody put a stopwatch on how you move when it comes to your dating work. When people put a stopwatch on that, like, and it could be anybody. It could be your outside influences, like your family. You should start dating again. You should, you got to get over somebody, get under somebody else. Like, people influence you in so many different ways, right? So, but don't let anybody else put a stopwatch on your progress in dating, okay? Because what I mean by that is when you allow somebody to put a stopwatch on your time, whether it's your family, whether it's somebody who you just hanging out with, maybe like, maybe we should start dating, or maybe, why haven't we gone out, or, what I mean? Something like that. If that's how it's been, then you got to give yourself an opportunity to say like, hey, I'm on my own time with this. Like it's not up to you. If I was going to date you, if I'm going to date you, it's kind of up to us, but it's not really up to you. I've got more say in this. So time is yours to tell, but when you can talk about your ex, would you say, Ray Butler, that's tough because you don't want rebounders. And that's the thing. See, you're right about that, Ray Butler. You don't really want people that's coming to catch you off the backboard. Like, ooh, let me get that. Let me get that put back. You don't want somebody that's just coming to scoop you up just because you're vulnerable and available. Vulnerability and availability sometimes don't always go together like Kool-Aid and sugar. It's not always a sweet combination, right? Like you're right about that, Ray. You don't always want just rebounders, but like when you can talk about your ex without feeling any like anger. First of all, if you can talk about them without feeling anger, that's the first step. Because the first thing people are, regardless of you, the person that was the dumped or the dumper, either the dumpy or the dumper, whatever one happened, whichever one you were, what's up, Drea? Whichever person you were, there's always going to be some in there. Like, I got to get rid of your ass. Like, I'm dumping your ass. Boom, you angry. Or like, I can't believe you dumped me. Oh, you angry. So first, if you can talk about them without feeling angry, that's the first step. That's the first indication to let you know, okay, you may be close to getting back to where you can date again or where you want to start dating again, right? So like, that's the first thing. So when you can talk about them without any anger, when you can talk about them without tears, because if you've got something along the lines of sadness that's associated with your what's up, Tyron Jackson? If you've got tears and pain associated with your breakup, if you can talk about them without those tears being evoked, without you feeling like that frog in your throat, then that may be an inclination or an indication to let you know it may be time to start dating again. When you could talk about them without the need to feel like you need to prove yourself and that you've moved on. Because a lot of times, some of us, what we do is we be like, you know what? I can date again. This, I can prove myself. He ain't got nobody waiting on me. I'm gonna be sitting there waiting on him to come back. But I ain't waiting on her ass to come back to me. I got pro, whatever. If you try to tell yourself, you got to pump yourself up over and over again and prove to yourself that you've moved on, then you not really ready to date yet. Because when you're ready to move on organically, it'll just happen. You don't have to talk about it. You don't have to talk about why. You don't have to talk about that you're ready or, that nobody's going to be out there getting past you. A lot of times we associate, we still connected to our ex, especially with this social media ish, right? Social media will kind of it'll have you in a quicksand, man. Social media have you out there like stuck like Chuck, like what the, it will. It really, really will, because you have so much access to one another, and not just that person, You can see their friends. You can see their friends' pages. You probably still associated with them unless you block everybody. You know what I mean? Like what Erykah Badu saying that song, we kept in touch through his friend Mike. You know what I mean? Like that's back in the day. You had to keep in touch through other people if you wanted to stay in touch with somebody. Now you wake up and it's across your feed because the algorithm feels like, okay, you were with this person. So until y'all stop being on pages that are similar, we're going to continue to send you things that associate you with them. Even if you block them, the things that y'all like together, so the friends, the pages, things like that, those are always going to direct you back to them being in your algorithm once again. So if you don't want them in there like that, if you do truly want to move on, if you can talk about them without feeling the need to prove that you've moved on, then you might be ready to start dating again. You know, because healing, like we said before, healing, it looks like peace. It's peaceful, if that makes sense. When you're healing, like a scar, when it's healing and it's not being aggravated over and over again and it's actually healing, then it feels peaceful. It feels relaxed. It feels as if it's effortless almost, right? Because you're putting forth the effort to make sure that you're in a position mentally to heal, right? But if it feels like a distraction, the things that you're doing, then that's not really healing. I mean, you are in your way, you know, time is going to heal anything, but you may not be healed enough to start moving on to somebody else, because what you're doing is you're taking this into another relationship with a possibility of it hemorrhaging all over to them. If you don't allow yourself to heal properly and you go out there, what's up, Kale's Cocktail? One of my best friends on the planet. If y'all in the LA area, make sure y'all get her some drinks from Kale's Cocktails. Hire her and Sweet Tooth Truck LA. They'll have your party rocking. What up, Pete? So like when you're healing, right? If you don't allow yourself the proper time to heal and you try to move on to another situation, you try to date somebody else, but you still got stitches from the last person. You are taking a chance of hemorrhaging all of that old stuff right into this new relationship. That's like if you had a surgery. So like if I had my surgery and I wanted to go lift weights before it was time, I was taking a chance of busting and hemorrhaging all over the floor because I'm thinking I'm ready to move on to another situation, and I wasn't. You know, so that's what you'd be doing in a relationship if you're still holding on to some of why it is that person, if you haven't healed from the last one yet enough to where you can move on and lift this new person up to a pedestal that you want them to be on, or lift them up in a way to where you want them to know that you are their person. Would you say your question is, Ray Butler? You said if you can't get over your ex for years, maybe you should have stayed unless abuse or cheating. And that's the thing too. If you do still have feelings for, but that's the thing. Like, but then what if it's they may be the person who was dumped too, though, right? You know, like, you know, they may not have left. They may be the ones who got dumped, and now they still trying to, you know, even if you that person, you the person that got left behind in the situation. You know, those are the ones I'm speaking to as well, you know, for the most part, because if you got left behind and now you're trying to see if you're ready to move on, then that's something. What you say, Mustang Detroit, you have to heal yourself completely and then begin to love yourself first. That's another thing. And that loving yourself goes a long way towards your healing. You're right, Mustang Detroit. You're right about that. That loving yourself has to be one of the ingredients in your process. That has to be one of the things you sprinkle into the pot of healing. Love for myself. Let me put a bunch of that in there. Let me get that in there. Because if I'm not loving on me and I'm expecting me to love on somebody or somebody else to love on me, how am I supposed to show them how that looks? How can I show you how to love me if I'm not doing it? What's up, Hula Dula 24? How can I move on to somebody else if I'm still hung up where I was before, especially if I got dumped? So now I'm taking this woe is me in here. I'm taking this, well, I'm hoping that they don't do me like the other person did me. You know what I'm saying? I'm hoping they don't do that. You know? So in that, you got to be able to say, okay, look, am I healed enough to say I can talk about them without feeling the oof in my gut? You know, when healing feels like peace and not a distraction, you may be ready to date again. If dating feels like an escape instead of feeling like expansion to your life, like if you feel like you getting away from something instead of you're enhancing your situation, then it's probably too soon. Again, I never tell people what to do or anything's etched in stone or tattooed on your neck. I'm just giving you options of what can be done based off what it is, the questions you're asking me. And I'm still going to give you what my online homies tell me as well. Like Mustang Detroit said, you have to love yourself. You have to heal yourself completely and then begin to love yourself first. You know, Ray Butler said, you know, he was talking about, he said, if you can't get over your ex, then maybe you should have stayed, you know, unless you're the person that unless you were getting dumped. I mean, unless you're getting cheated on, abused, or unless you're the one getting dumped, right? So these are real things that people are asking, real questions, and these are real ways to answer them. So what have we covered today? Why do people stay in situationships where they know they're not going anywhere? And we talked about how, you know, because comfort feels safer than clarity. We talked about that. We talked about how, you know, being able to feel, you know, comfortable in a situation feels way better sometimes than having to know where your next step has to go. To be able to float freely in a situationship feels a whole lot safer than sometimes being in a relationship where it's structured and you know exactly what's expected of you. So that's why people stay in situationships sometimes that they know aren't going anywhere. You know, a situationship gives you just enough of what you're looking for in that moment. Like I said, whether that's some good sex, whether that's good communication, whether that's good company, whether that's good money to spend on wherever you want to go, it gives you just enough of it without holding you down to say like, okay, now I expect you to be what I need you to be on the other side of that coin. So that's why, you know, folks would rather deal with the uncertainty than to face the loneliness. Right? So that was the first question we dove into. And now the second question we dove into today, I think I'm going to do this again next week. I'm going to do this again where we come in here and we talk about a lot of the questions that people ask. I got a lot more on here. But the second question we asked today was, should you forgive a partner who cheats, even if they admit it right away? And we talked about that. You know, forgiveness and reconciliation are two different things. You can forgive somebody, you know what I mean? But to be able to link back up with them, to be back cool with them, to be back with them in a relationship, in a friendship, that sometimes doesn't always happen. Or even if it does, it may take time, because we said that time is, you know what I'm saying, what needs to occur. You have to give it the time to be rebuilt, what has been destroyed. And that's that trust that you won't make them feel that way has been destroyed. What's going on, Brown Eyes at 59? You know, that trust that they had for you in regards to this particular situation is no longer there, you know, and that right in itself takes time to be rebuilt. What'd you say, Dakari Kofi? My biggest thing is finding myself again. You compromise so much in relationships, just find yourself first. That's another one. You have to identify, again, as we talked about, you have to be able to know that for first and foremost, the old you or the old situation, the old relationship is no longer there. Like we said, it's like a big old skyscraper that's imploded. So now that piece of property is no longer there. So now you have to first admit and know and understand that there has to be a new you and a new them in regards to this. So that's it. Find that first. Find out what that new is, where that new wants to go, what that new wants that was the same, what that new wants that's way completely polar opposite of what it before, and can those things coexist? What's going on, Sola Black, going on with you? Would you say, Ray Butler, does that allow the other person to cheat? No, we're not allowing them to cheat. We're not saying for the person to go out and cheat. I'd never tell nobody to go out and cheat, right? All I'm saying is, like, you know, if they cheated, then It's not up to them to determine when you forgive them. That's one thing we talk about when I was talking about earlier with rebuilding the trust. The person who's waiting on this trust to be rebuilt, it's not on their time schedule. You know, they just have to put in the effort to keep putting those bricks back together and waiting for it to dry so the cracks won't be, easily destructed. And that building can't be easily destroyed again. And then sometimes we even talked about before, Twin J2 said, sometimes you need to just remove yourself from the situation altogether and allow yourself to heal elsewhere. So it doesn't feel like you're being looked at and being scoped upon to where you can't even get a grip on what it is you want to say. So no, we're not saying it allows anybody to cheat. Not at all. Not at all. What's going on, Smith WR? You know what I mean? That's the thing. So Dakari, yes, find yourself in those situations. In that, a lot of times what we do is, especially y'all Virgos, you and Virgo, Dakari, y'all Virgos, y'all want to try to find every piece of what's been blown up. The first things first, find what's got to be your new foundation. You're not going to find a piece of shattered glass that blew way over there to put this same Humpty Dumpty back together again. You have to realize that it is a new you. It is a new you. And sometimes so many of us are stuck on who the old us was that we don't want to let go of all of it. No, you can bring some of those pieces over, but they have to start to build that there's going to be a new you. You'll never find every piece of that shattered part of you. What'd you say, Ray Butler? A lot of people feel they get past not knowing it's a failure waiting to happen. And that's it. And that's what we look at. People think that they're going to hurry you up. What's up, For Analyze? My Madre in the building. And I see you, Lucy Lope, putting your Virgo sign up. A lot of people, they want to find all of their, what's up, Kevin Durant? A lot of them want to find all of their shattered pieces. And that in and of itself is sort of like setting yourself up for failure. Because again, do you want all of those shattered pieces? Because some of those are reminiscent of what it was that was destroyed and blown up. Part of those shattered pieces are the knowing and remembering what it was that helped destroy and implode this building. What's good, Slim Goody with a pretty smile? What's going on with you? So you don't want all of the pieces. You can bring some of your core pieces back over. Look into the rubble, look into the wreckage, and bring some of those core pieces right back over with you, the parts of you that are part of you and the new you. But you have to realize that to build around them is going to take it's going to take some open-mindedness. It's going to take some understanding. But the most important thing is it's going to take patience from everybody involved in that situation. It's going to take patience. You know what I mean? So I dig you with that. You know what I mean? And then we also talked about how do we know when it's cool to start dating again after a breakup. And like I said, time is only yours to tell. Time is yours to tell. Okay? And it's don't put nobody stopwatch on your date life. When you can talk about that person without crying, without being mad, without feeling like your need to prove that you have moved on. That's when you know it's okay to start dating. Because if not, like I said, my analogy I used in all of that was, what's up, big Burger King? What's going on with you, bro? I'm going to call you back. I'm going to call you later on the day, bro. When you try to take a old scar and you still healing into another situation, you are taking a chance of hemorrhaging right everything of that old place right into this new place. Okay? Just like when you finding a way to forgive people, just like when you finding a way to start dating again, all these things you have to forgive yourself, trust yourself again, and you can move on from there. Okay. So I appreciate all of y'all that tuned in, tapped in, and chimed in with me today. As always, y'all can always holler at the homie. I'm going to do this again next week. I got a couple letters in the bank, but I got a lot more questions that people have asked me, and we're going to address them like we do it this week. We're going to do this again next week. So I'll see y'all next Wednesday. I appreciate y'all for tuning in and tapping in. If you got questions for me, you got my phone number, text me. If you got my email address, email me. But if not, email me at hollaatthehomie@gmail.com. That's HOLLAATTAHOMIE@gmail.com. And I've been your host, 360 the Poet. And it's until I breathe in y'all direction again, be good to yourself and be good to each other. I'm going to holler at you in a minute.
Keep your radio dial right here. You're locked into the hottest news station on the planet. Hot 702.5 in FM sound. Blazing today's hip hop, R&B, and pop music. Keeping your radio on fire. Bringing you the hottest, realest, riskiest talk shows live 24/7 on hot 702.5fm.com.